Sometimes I see a movie that proves how awesome women are, and I saw one today. I went and saw Molly's Game, which stars Jessica Chastain in like an amazing role, and it is the story, true story, mind you, of a woman who ran high stakes poker games in LA and then also in New York City. And it centers around her being brought in by the FBI with connections to the mob or mafia. I don't really know the difference. Wait, is one of them Russian and one Italian? I think it's Italians. No, wait. It's Russian mob and Italian mafia? I don't know. Hold on, we're gonna start this whole thing over. I just saw Molly's Game and it restored my faith in Hollywood's ability to make movies about strong women who don't beat people up. So the film, if you're unaware, stars Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, and it centers around this woman named Molly Bloom. It is a true story, or based on a true story anyway, about a young woman who ran high-stakes poker games in LA and then also in New York City. And it revolves around her being brought in by the FBI because of some of her players' connections to the mafia or mob. And basically, she is trying to convince Idris Elba's character to be her lawyer. And so she is telling him the story of her life as well as living in the moment with what's happening with the trial. And you get sort of both of those together. And it's really, really good. She does such a good job. She's just so fast. Everything she fires back is amazing. She has some really, really great speeches in this film. I've only seen it once, so I can't quote them, but I want to see it again just so I can remember. There's one that's in the trailer that's like, well, what if every ill-conceived, misogynistic notion you had about me was wrong? And that's in the film, and I was like, yes, please. It's just beautiful. She clearly is a person who, despite some shortcomings, she talks about drug addiction, she talks about some other problems that she had, she was very much always in control. And there's this great bit where she clearly has a tough relationship with her dad. She was a professional skier and almost made it to the Olympics, but had a horrific crash. And actually had a really bad injury when she was younger where they said she'd never ski again, but her dad is pretty tough-nosed. So she's got a super successful older brother who's a skier and a super successful older brother who is a doctor, I think. And so she's been trying to live up to them and live up to her father. And there's this great moment where he sits down next to her and he was like, you ran the two amazing poker games. Like, you did this incredible stuff. You turned over this much money. You were in charge of all this. You rubbed elbows with all these people. And she's like, yeah, and now I'm being indicted by the FBI. And her dad's like, well, nobody's perfect. And it's at that moment that you as the viewer realize that he actually is proud of her, even if it takes her a little bit longer to sort of figure it out. And I was kind of a little bothered by the fact that they made it like, oh, you just do all of this because you want to prove to your dad that you're good enough, or you want to fight against men. And I realized that this is clearly based on a book, and so obviously if she felt that way about herself, then that's what should be portrayed on screen. But sometimes girls can be awesome just to be awesome. And there were a lot of great moments in here. Like the way that she changed the game in LA, and then the way that she reacted every time the game was taken from her. So basically, she worked for this guy who was a complete jerk. And he was like, yeah, you get tipped at the game for helping him out, so I'm just gonna stop paying you for being my assistant all the time. And she was like, you're gonna stop paying me? Are you firing me? And he goes, no, I just don't think it's fair. You make money on tips. I don't want to pay you. And she's like, so you're going to stop paying me for the job as your assistant because I make too much money doing my second job, but if I stop being your assistant, I lose both jobs? How is that fair? And it was a really, really good point because clearly he has this view of himself and her that was completely wrong. And so he was like, that's it, I'm cutting you out. I'm tired of you making this money. It's over. And it was in that moment that she realized that she didn't need him. And so she started running her own game, but she stole some of his players. And then one of those players wanted to play things that she wasn't interested in, and he cut her out of the game. But she managed to start a game in New York City. And this is my favorite part of the film. She finds Playboy Bunny playmates who are all secretly awesome, which I guess is the case with a lot of playmates. I haven't necessarily read a lot, but most of them are like really gorgeous and also super talented and intelligent and all of that jazz, because that's how most women are. Surprise. Not just a pretty face. I mean, clearly not, but that's beside the point. Anyway, so she finds these Playboy playmates and she brings them together and asks them about the poker scene, and she sort of finds out about the poker scene in New York City and all of the games that people want to get into, and she needs to get players into her game. So she goes to a charity event where a bunch of rich people are raising money for other rich people, which is basically the perfect place for a high-stakes poker game runner to exist. And she gets the girls to say, oh yeah, I've been hearing about this high-stakes poker game, blah, 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 blah. You know, a lot of people have really been playing, and they're like dropping names, but not promising that those people are there, just suggesting that they've maybe played, and they sort of drum up this attention, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, but I really want in on this game. And every girl says, I don't know, the waiting list is really long, but you know what, Molly's around here somewhere. Let me see if I can ask Molly and see what she can do, which clearly instills the idea that Molly is in charge. It creates this mysterious thing that everybody wants to be a part of, even though really no one was a part of it. And that's the beauty of it. Like, it's just so brilliant. And so she drums up all of this interest, and then she creates a sort of arbitrary waiting list to string those guys along just for a couple weeks until she can bring them together. And then they see each other at the game and they start talking to people, and she builds a higher waiting list and sort of builds this beautiful game from that. And as she is telling this story to her lawyer, she starts talking about all of the different people who played her games, but she doesn't mention anyone by name. And she wrote a book, which is Molly's Game, which is the book that the film is based on. The book is also in the film, which is kind of a little meta. But basically, he's looking at this book, and he's like, but you only named these people, and they were the people who were named in a previous lawsuit, but named by another player, not named by her. And she's like, yeah, well, I won't name them because I could ruin lives. Like, people said all sorts of things and did all sorts of things, and I don't want to ruin families. I don't want to ruin lives. You know, she has all this stuff on her hard drive, every text message, every phone call, everything that has ever been traced, like, exists on her computer, and she just doesn't want it to be known. And that's why he takes her on. And so you get this view of a person who, it's not even that she's protecting these people because, like, they're gonna pay her back or anything like that. She just feels so strongly about the things that she's doing and how important it is to, like, walk that line where she was providing a service and she's not going to turn them in and she's not going to betray them no matter what it does to her, because she has worked herself to this point, and so she is basically, I guess, going to get what she deserves. Like, she's like, I did this, me, and it doesn't help me to get off easier by turning on these other people. That's not who I am. And that's what makes the lawyer decide that he wants to work with her. And you'll have to see it to see how the lawsuit ends up. But I would highly recommend this film, especially if you are a woman who's interested in strong female characters. Molly is very interesting. She clearly is three-dimensional. She's got a lot going on. Plus, I'm really excited to check out this book now because I am interested in what the differences are. And also, I'm interested in, like, reading it knowing that it actually is her recounting of the true story. Well, that's it for me. I will give this movie 4 stars. And I'll see you tomorrow.